Let's introduce our final panel for today. We have Jerry the Darkwood Hicks right here, our MC as well as our speaker for the day. We have Tete Dejours, Cynthia Sue Larson, and Alicia Thompson. First time speaker, did a wonderful job. Energy was great, so we'll get right to the questions here so we have all the time we need. All right, first question.
Hi, I loved your talks. Thank you guys for coming. Change the world. Yeah, so I also like working with the tools that you guys demonstrate. I like the wire thing and the dowsing, the pendulum, the divining rods. Like I'll go in that muscle testing and the unique, interesting technology our body reflects and has reflect back through to us through tools, information, and biofeedbacks. And gaining more knowingness. I've witnessed over 30 plus tools that can do this from people, but I think there's more to discover. And interacting with your body technology and gaining information, knowingness, senses, emissions from the body, relays, reactions. What have you discovered that's unique to you guys or in gaining information from the reflections of the tools and ourself and the universe of ourself, everything?
Love that question. Maybe I'll go first. I love it. That's so cool. Well, I feel like everything comes with subtitles for me, and so if I get unique messages in my body, or like I get like in my left side, then I'll know it's a receiving kind of a thing because I'm right-handed. And if I'm getting input that just indicates like if my eye itches, for example, it means look more clearly. And if it's the right side, that's give what I'm seeing. And same thing with the hearing. You know, if it's my left ear, it's really listen so deeply that I don't even talk and just go deep, deep, deep into that stillness of whatever it is I'm receiving. If it's the right side, then I'm giving what I've heard, maybe from the future, maybe from the past. So I'm really, I love reading, and then I read deeply. So the more into stillness I can go, the more deeply I can read. And I love to ask the questions, what level of consciousness is bringing this, and who is this? So I question it. And I go back and forth between sensitivity and specificity, you know, like quantum physics, or like the hemispheres of the brain. So it's kind of like one is full-on sensitivity is you're not formatting anything. There's no structure at all. And it's just a pure receptivity, the purest possible. And then specificity would be the particle side of it, where you do have a question that's very focused. So I know I'm sorry about the long answer, but I love this stuff.
Thank you.
Love it, love it.
Can you hear me?
Nope.
No? Oh, okay. What came to mind for me is you've probably heard of you get the sound in your ears. I get those a lot. No, tinnitus.
Knocking on the door.
Yes, I get those a lot. And to me, they're called to usually get still. And just, I don't always know what it means, but usually just to kind of, there's something bigger trying to get my attention. And that's how I take that. And I've noticed that the more I pay attention to it, the more it happens. And I feel like it's positive, so, yeah.
I think yoga is for sissies. And, let me explain this. I had to start doing yoga. And it was only when I started doing yoga to save my leg. I had multiple surgeries done on my leg where I was told that it was going to atrophy. When I started doing it, I can't feel my leg from here down. It's a very frustrating thing, but I've learned how to cope with it using this technique in yoga, because I was all about balance and it was all about fighting again, but instead of fighting another person, I was fighting myself to get into a perfect balance. And so I started to accept different sensations as, points of authority. Like in that point, I'm going, hey, I can now do this. I can use this leg as a test measurement. The side effect of this was a lot of synchronicities. The more I did yoga, the more I did Tai Chi, I started getting more and more and more synchronicities. And I didn't want there to be a correlation there because I wanted it to be just a rehab thing. That's all I wanted. And so what I'm trying to get to is be open to patterns that you might not agree with. Okay, be open with that and be open to ideas that you run away from, face your fear type of stuff. Even if you look down on that and you're like, I would condescend to that, that's not for me, right? It could teach you a very, very serious lesson.
All right, thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
Simplified, what type of tools do you have the universe reflect you information and biofeedback that gives you more knowing?
Gotcha. So I live in a way that I say that I walk in universe every day. Me and universe have kind of a ongoing dialogue, second by second, minute by minute. It's always been very good to me, thank goodness. Apparently I'm one of its favorite students, I guess. But in all seriousness, when I hear the ear ringing, like what'll happen to me, and I'm not sure if this happens to everybody, but I'll have one side just completely deafen out, and then it'll ring back in. So that to me has always been one of those moments in my life that I just kind of stop and like look around. Where am I at? Is there something special? Is there a 11:11 moment? Is there, is there something universe is trying to tell me in this moment? Most of the time I go off of intuition. I'll be honest with you. My intuition usually leads me exactly where I need to go as far as universe is concerned, and I live by the creed and motto, and I'm not going to go much further because long-winded answer. I live by the creed and motto, all things in their own time. So I know universe will have me when, where, and how it needs me, when, where, and how it, when it needs to. So I appreciate the question.
Thank you very much. And we have a bunch of know thyself, know thy universe tools on the table in the back for everyone, and everyone should connect and share contacts, because we shouldn't let time and space stop soul family from being together anymore.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. And our next question, Elaine.
Okay, I have a question about time, manipulating time. And Jerry led the perfect introduction by your talk. You said we don't have time machines, don't we? What is the Antikythera? Antikythera, thank you. I just cannot say that word. That was a time machine. That was the Greek tool that they used to calibrate time. They called it the timekeeper. When they found it in 1901 off a shipwreck in Greece, they found that it had been calibrated to 204 BCE now, which I don't understand how you can count backwards. That's always blown my mind, how you can count BC. Right. And also I had a Mandela effect while checking this out. The 205, or the date on it was CE. And I'd never seen CE, and I had to sit there and think, okay, BCE to CE. Then I realized, oh, Christ era instead of AD, I guess.
I think it's current era.
Common era. Oh, that makes more sense because they had to take Christ out of it altogether. So, but what I'm saying is that looks like the astronomy wheel, the astrological, your natal chart has 360 degrees. That wherever the sun placement that moves 1 degree a day, in my mind, you could almost take that mechanism and recreate where the planets were aligned to get to that point in space and time. And they even have an ephemeris calendar for 9,000 years. You can pull up a 9,000 calendar to see exactly what the placements are. Do you think, because I have indications and experience where time was reset and we missed a big chunk of time. A lot of evidence supported that. Major amounts of time. Where when I came back, people were old. My grandkids were grown. But he's 16 years old. But he's a grown man. Do you think it's possible that they could use an apparatus like that to manipulate the time?
Not only do I think it's possible, I think it's highly plausible that they could. Yes. Have we found evidence that they have? Unfortunately, no. Could it be something like that? I'm open to the idea. Absolutely. I'm not going to poo-poo it and say, oh, no, they can't do that. This is the government they're talking about. I'm sure they've tried already, right? So in my opinion, yeah, I think it's plausible to think that it could be part of a device like that, or maybe even in the future it could be used as part of a device to determine what time or place in time you want to go. Do I think that you can, to take your question a step further, do I think that you can just sit there, turn the Antikythera machine, look up, and you're in Greece 2000 or BCE or something? I don't think that's the case. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do think your concept could be plausible. By the way, before I finish, I noticed on your slides you had a little time travel meme. And I have always joked, if ever I found a time machine, there's 1 year that I would never, ever go to. And that is, of course, the worst year in history, 2020. I noticed that was on the bottom one of your things. I said, Shane, yep, that's me. I'm never going there. But, Ted, what do you think? Could the Antikythera mechanism possibly be used for time travel?
I'm going to go back to your presentation. You don't know what you don't know. And one of the big Mandela effects is a new addition to our periodic table, a new element called unsteinium. I've never heard of unsteinium before. So if this is what we're doing and we're reaching into different dimensions, and this is our new ability to pull information and even entire, elements into this one, we will pull technology that will give us that ability. Like, and for this machine to work, maybe we need unsteinium, right? And for people attempting to do this, right, they couldn't do it until it was available due to this technique. So my response to this is, we will be able to do it when we can. I know we will. And so when we do it, we'll know exactly why we did it. No different than the atom bomb. We're like, oh, hey, here's plutonium, and here's the theory that fits it. No different than the theories that we're messing with right now of, quantum entanglement on a mental psychic level. So that's my answer.
Really, it was more about resetting time instead of more of a time travel, more resetting time to a certain spot.
Perfect time, perfect place, and in that time and place, just like if you're going to do a surgery, if the scalpel's not there, it's not going to happen, right? You need all those things to be there. That's my response.
Okay.
Yeah, so resetting time you're right, that's different than time travel. I was, as far as resetting, it's hard to know exactly what the Antikythera was set up to do because we don't really know. And when you say reset, are you talking about the whole mud floods and Tartaria stuff?
Not to that extent, but I was curious if anybody has had the feeling that your time has been manipulated. I guess it would have been I
feel more like I do the manipulating more than getting manipulated.
Okay.
So, and I know from reading books like Fred Alan Wolf's The Yoga of Time Travel, we don't need a device. So it's one of the cities that you can work with. Like Dean Radin writes about the real magic, and he's talking about the cities. I wish that part of the book was expanded because that's the cool stuff.
Okay.
So it's nice to have the machines, but actually it's not necessary to work with them.
Okay.
What we need is what I was talking about earlier, sensitivity and specificity. It requires extraordinary focus, awareness of self, knowing who's doing the jumping. That's who am I. These are deeper questions than they seem to be, and much deeper than most of our physics currently deals with.
Okay.
The short answer is yes. I think you're right. I know I've had many experiences which most people would call daydreaming, where you kind of go into that lucid dream space or something, like right before you fall asleep or right before you wake up, where I have felt very vividly that I'm somewhere else, like, another time, like I'm thinking of something from my past, but I'm there.
Right.
And I can smell things, I can feel things. And then I come to, and my first thought a lot of times is I time traveled. And I agree with Cynthia. I think we all have this capability. Maybe the whole thing about time travel machines and science fiction and stuff, I think maybe these are things trying to wake you up to tell you can do these things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't,
Okay.
the machine is a device. You don't, literary or otherwise. You don't really need
It
it.
just shows up in everything for me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
you know how to do it already, because the
It
stories you
shows up.
tell are you're moving, you're
Okay.
jumping.
Well,
Yeah.
if I may add to that, actually, bilocation time travel is interesting because we've actually seen cases in 2019 at the conference of bilocation. That's the only reason I can stand fast and say I now believe in that 100%. We've seen it.
I have bilocated.
And we've also got the idea that every piece of technology we've ever built is to emphasize something we already know and do. So if we were to build a time machine, I really think we would have to build it off a way that we already know how to time travel mentally, spiritually, whatever the case may be.
Thank you for the question. Next question up.
Hey guys.
Hey,
Steven.
Steven.
And this is the question that I was going to have at your panel, Wolf, at the beginning, but ran out of time. And but it's going to be awesome hearing the answers from all four of you guys. So the big thing that was running in my head, and it's been running in my head for a while now with all the work that I do, and when I started to get the handle on the concept of how the I Ching works, which is an ancient Chinese mystic understanding of these 64 possibilities of yes and no, effectively, right? The book of changes, and does something happen or not happen? Is something or is not something, right? And and binary code was built off of someone who discovered the I Ching, and so he figured that out, which is why whenever people are talking about the matrix and simulation theory, they do naturally work hand in hand, right? Which is why all the technological language that we use to talk about this metaphysical, very spiritual experience that this all is very appropriate in our modern context. And it's kind of like the awareness of it, right? Because there isn't, I don't know enough about the I Ching about whether they talk about the quantum concept that we get in quantum computing, because a bit is a yes and a no in quantum computing, not a yes or a no. Just like a lot of quantum physics philosophers, even like channeled material from Daryl Anka's Bashar said it's in the future, it's not going to be this or that. It's going to be this and that, which now makes sense because quantum computing somehow works. Thus, the I Ching somehow is working on a yes and no. We now have this awareness, like the double slit experiment, imagining a particle like a bit in quantum computing. Is it that our consciousness now observing and capable of understanding a quantum principle that something can be both is and is not at the same time, kind of what's creating all of the manipulations in the Mandela Effect that seem far more on the quote, almost random side, because now we are the observer, changing whether the particle moves like a wave or does not move like a wave. What do you guys think?
I love that.
So could you put that in more of a question form? Like, I get what you're trying to ask.
Right. My thing is this, are we the ones that are able, that have the minds to dwell on quantum concepts, on those above concepts, on a level that mankind is not used to before because of how our conversation has elevated, our sciences, our ability to measure things of the invisible, thus
So you're
creating...
asking, do you think because we're able to think on a much higher level that we're able to see these things now where we couldn't before?
We're unconsciously using our psychic resonance, and it's screwing with it when it's meant to be the natural state we're used to, but now it's not going to be that anymore because that's not the frequency our psychic field works at. You see what I mean? Do you think, does that question make sense?
I love the question. Yeah. Okay, I'll start. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, so the couple things about the I Ching. One is that if you read it, then the best way to read it is to look for at least 3 meanings in everything you're reading. That's the way the language works. And the way that it works is very much fourfold logic. It's that Asian logic where you've got true, you've got false, you've got true and false, and you've got not true, not false. It was just very different than a court of law. I mentioned in my talk that I was called for jury duty. I explained all this about fourfold logic. That's where the two attorneys looked like, yeah. And I'm like, what? And then the judge looks worried. The judge is the only one that leans in and like, but you will follow the rules of this court. And I'm thinking, did he not hear anything? But anyway, but to answer your question, we are absolutely made for this. It's intrinsic to our nature. Very much what Tom Campbell was saying, the reality shifts, the Mandela effects, that's normal. And that is greater consciousness talking to us. And we can see the feeling of, it's so much more than binary in the I Ching, because each of those trigrams that then turns into a hexagram, and then you can flip-flop them depending on which way the changing lines move. That's going to give you something extraordinary. And if you ever play with it, I would never do anything other than take it completely seriously with the greatest respect. Because this divination tool is what I would consider the top one of all of the ones.
And it's in my divinatory practice as
yeah.
I've been integrating it, yeah.
Very high level. So I think we're meant for it. I think we're made for it. I think it's part of us. And maybe now that more of the West is moving into yoga, we're meditating, we've hit a tipping point. If you look at the statistics on how many people in the United States are now meditating, we cleared that 10% point around, I think it was 2016, 2017. That's not just a coincidence. That's a meaningful coincidence. So it's all tied together.
The I Ching and computing. For me, when I started messing with the I Ching, I did the same way I did with every divination practice, which is the exact opposite way that was just explained. And the reason that I do it is like it's the same way when I grab a piece of paper and I don't know what I'm going to draw, or I don't know what I want to do. I just want something to happen. You know, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a good thing. I don't care if it's a bad thing, because I'm in the desire of knowing what it, you know, what's going to happen. Like I'm here to watch it play out. And so I embrace the randomness I'm about to approach. And what I like about it is that, you know, that organization that already exists in it, the 8x8, the idea of, you know, using the elements and using that story. I purposely don't read the story because I want a story to appear in my mind when I read those words. And as that story appears, I can divide it up from there and use it in multiple different ways and multiple different understandings, and then eventually one comes to the surface and it solidifies. No different than rolling the dice. No different than throwing the sticks in the first place. So I let the story be itself, and I give it the same respect that I give the water. Like if this is divination practice, then I'm going to let it even show me how to practice it. You know, reading the book is one thing, and I have this even in piano. I've played at a collegiate level in jazz bands before, and I didn't do it by reading music. There are people that read sheet music, and they do it very well, and you take that book away from them, they can't do anything. If someone came to me and they said, hey, read this book and follow it appropriately, I can do that in a lot of things, but I can't do it in music. There's just a part of me that has to change it. And I want to be a part of that story. And so what I would say, whatever you're messing with, whether it's quantum or anything, see yourself in it, right? See yourself as a part of it. Okay, so if you're studying that quantum level at a bits level, and you're saying this has got to be 1 and this has got to be 0, right? By the end of that turn, you decide whether you're 1 or 0. You decide it, and you leave 0 behind. And then you move on. No different than the sentences you choose just now.
So I'm going to take that a completely different direction, because I don't practice divination on that, you know, relative concept, if you will. I'm not a divinator. You know, I don't read tea leaves. I don't do the I Ching. I appreciate the I Ching, and I've looked through it, but it's not my practice. So I'm going to tackle another part of your question.
Sure.
And that is, have we reached as Cynthia put it, a tipping point in consciousness to where we're able to see these things more clearly? And I would also say yes, 100%. Like you said, it's no coincidence we reached the 10% mark. Now, why is the 10% mark important, though? There's a reason for that. So when you get 10% of any population on board with something, the rest of the population will start to follow behind very easily. Very easily. So when you've got 10% of the country meditating, you're now going to have more and more people start falling behind or falling into this category and jumping on board and doing these things. So do I think this would raise the awareness and consciousness of the Gen Pop? Absolutely. 100%. I think we've crossed a 100th monkey threshold at some point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if that's what you meant by that 10%.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I do think so. The 100th monkey, there is no definitive number on that. The real quick diatribe here. The 100th monkey was just named that because they didn't know how many monkeys it had taken beforehand. They just know they had noticed it and went, "Oh, that's probably about the 100th one." You know. So yeah, there's no definitive number on that. That's just a name they basically threw to it.
And just remember, baboons together are a congress.
Right, and that should tell you something about something else, right? But anyway, they look like them, don't they? Anyway, so yeah, I do think that we have reached that tipping point where more people are seeing the Mandela Effect. More people are more open-minded to the paranormal. I've been interacting, and I'll end my answer on this because, again, long-winded, and I apologize. I work with a lot of the public. And a lot of times I'll be introducing my radio show, and what do you talk about? I talk about paranormal. 9 times out of 10, the answer is, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's really cool, or I'm into that, or at least show a degree of interest. Only very few will be like, oh, that's weird. No, I don't want nothing to do with that. So, again, it's that tipping point. I think we've seen a major, major expansion of people who are much more open-minded to these concepts. And I think people like Cynthia in the early days and a lot of the earlier people who were doing paranormal research, myself included, I like to think, were a part of that tipping point. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I think so too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I apologize for the long-winded answer.
All right, we got one more question, looks like here. Oh, you want to do 2? Maybe 2 more?
So I just have a very simple question. What do you guys find most exciting, or what do you love the most? It could be about this or any random thing, just in a general sense.
Just in the world?
Just in life. Like, what are you guys most excited about?
You know, you come up here and you hit us with Mandela questions, and we can answer them hands down. You ask us about that, we're all sitting here like,
You're going to say just being here. I mean, my goodness.
Right. Like,
are you kidding? Like,
yeah, I got to say, I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, being here with these amazing group of people and being able to do these events, having the ability, having the ability to put on these events for you guys. Knowing that we are behind this, that we're able to do these events for the public and for you guys here in the room right now, that is something I like a lot. When I'm able to work with my amazing team, the dream team, as I call them, we call ourselves, because it's a dream to work with them. When I'm working with the dream team, I really feel in my element. That is one of my favorite parts of every day. And yes, I mean every day. There's email strings we have literally every day. So yeah, working with this team is my favorite part of life.
My favorite part today, now, out of all my life, my favorite part of every day is that moment when I wake up and my wife sits my son right there on the bed next to me, and it's 5:30 in the morning, and she goes back to bed. And we just play. And we play, and we play, and we continue to play until she's ready to take him. And then I get to go and create. And I don't have to answer emails. I don't have to translate for anybody. I don't have to wonder whether or not I'm going to have to grab my go bag. I don't have to watch people die. You know, I get to sit there and just play. That's the favorite thing that I enjoy.
Awesome answer.
I love talking with nature. You know, I communicate with, we've got squirrels that bring me apples in the backyard, and a gopher that gardens and kind of clears things and brings plants in, and talk to clouds and trees. I love that. So I think nature is incredible. And sometimes being able to see into kind of like into the, we're calling it the matrix, but to me it's alive. Yeah. To me there are dragons in the sky. You can talk with them. I love that.
Maybe the next conference can be in nature somehow.
Yeah, I love that mystical way of living, and I just love to be able to experience it.
Cool.
It's funny, a long time ago I wrote a list called my joy list, and I add to it all the time. There are things I'd like to do before I transition to wherever I go after this. And I think right now I have 175 things on it.
Okay.
So I think I like creativity, and I like playing, and I love seeing people have fun. I really enjoy seeing people enjoy themselves.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the question.
All right, cool. I was talking
We
with
got like
Shane.
about 5 minutes left, so we'll see if we can fit one more in after you.
Okay,
We'll
cool.
see if we can go kind of quick.
I was talking with Shane to see what was the theme of today. We were saying it was love on the first day, it was fruit yesterday, and I was thinking, I think it's time today because I was seeing time run through all of your presentations. So my question is related to time. And so it's simple. It's what is time? How would you define it? What is it?
I thought you said it was simple.
What is time? Robert John of the Pear Lab, Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, Cynthia may know this. Some years ago, he said, when they were racking their brain around all the quantum physics and the math, he said, it all makes sense if you just take time out of there. And that really landed for me because I thought, interesting, time is kind of screwing up their math. But what is time for you? And based on that, what's the future and what's the past? Thank you.
Again, I thought you said you had a simple question. What is time? What is time? So that could be taken so many ways that I don't even have time to really go into, honestly. It's time to figure out what time it is, right? So to me, time is both a construct as far as like it's really happening. You can't go back to next Tuesday, but we've used time as a measurement tool, right? Like to determine entropy and things like that, to determine the movement of space and, things of that nature, we've used time. Can we travel in an element like time? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Science says we can, so, I must go with that. Well, it doesn't say we can't, right? We haven't found like a particle to time, right? Like gravity, we haven't found a particle that says this is the time particle, right? So, I don't really know how to answer the question aside from
How do you relate to time?
how do I relate to time? Not very well. We don't get along all that good at all.
So for you, it's basically a measurement system.
It is. It really is. How do I relate to time in the aspect? It keeps me going, right? I spend so much time trying to keep up with my life that I don't have time to think about questions like that a lot. So, that's really the only answer I got. Sorry.
Who wants to go next? Tete?
Oh,
Go right
yes.
down the line.
This controls my life. This is a deep, amazing question that I find happiness in learning the different words that surround it, how different cultures approached it, even how our biology, where we keep our time correction, measurement desire. But in physics, there is a measurement problem. And so the idea goes like this. I didn't start coming up with this until I started using a device called Muse during my meditation sessions. And I got the idea from Stephen Kotler and his ideas about flow, right? And it's just deep meditation and brainwave documentation. And so what would happen is I would go into these deep meditative states where I'm being tracked by this device using the EEG machine. And when I would go as deep as I possibly could, the register would stop. And there would only be small points during this. Like I would meditate for 15 minutes, meditate for 20 minutes. But the idea goes like this. When you go to a flow state, time slows down. Everyone's done this before. When you knock that glass off of the counter, you realize you're like, oh my gosh, I can catch this before it hits the ground. And you see almost every moment before it hits the ground. That's a time dilation right there. It literally is slowing down for you and your perception. So do we keep that time inside of us? And is it maintained in our frontal lobe? I say no. I say just like memory, you can hold it in multiple places. Right? Is that when you come to that connective space that meditation helps you practice, you can use it to think new things, right? And allow for new things to happen for you. I'm not a big person when it comes to words using manifestation because I want whatever is going to raise all ships to happen no matter what. So when I think about time, I'm going, how can I best use this moment, right? If I have to slow it down or if I have to speed it up because I have the techniques to know how to do that, right? If this moment is the most important moment right now and I treat it that way, then I'm going to insert my intention at that particular moment and let it happen and then walk away. So time for me and how I measure it is very personal, and I recommend that all of you guys take that personal approach too.
All right, thank you. Cynthia.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can explain what time is. That's a hard one to define, but we each have an experience of it, and I've seen some extraordinary things, time stopping quite a lot. Meeting my future self when I was 16, and it was a very real experience where I took something from my room that then vanished, that later, decades later, gave me an important message. So these things are extraordinary and powerful. And then bilocation, that's happened to me. So I noticed through experience that if I want to get lots done or speed up or suddenly go a lot faster, make a lot of progress, the best thing to do is slow to a complete stop where I can access infinity and eternity and all access to all realities. That's the key to it. So this is the system. So if you don't know how to get into a flow state, this is all you have to do. And you can just hold it for a moment, hold it for 2 seconds, and then, you don't need the devices, don't need anything measuring how you're doing it. Yeah.
I just want to prove it to myself.
And you don't have to worry if you've meditated long enough or if it's too short. Just anything at all is good. And if you can practice it, especially when you're starting to feel panicky or like things are going too fast, that's the real time to do it. Or if you feel like you're under psychic attack, or there's so many opportunities to practice this. When you just feel like things are out of control, then remember there's something I can do. I can just try to slow my thoughts down to complete stop. And just have faith that if you practice this, you'll start to see some real amazing, meaningful coincidences, some extraordinary, I love to add, of course, you know what I'm going to say. How good can it get? That's my favorite spice to add to any intention because it guides it upward. If it was starting to spiral, it'll fix it. If you're in your own way, it'll correct that. So it's definitely my how-to kit. So time is a master key.
Thank you, Cynthia. How good can it get? Alicia, how do you relate with time?
I think as Jerry said, I think it's a construct of consciousness. I think it's just a tool for us to use for expansion. I know when I was in my early 20s, I was very fastidious about wearing wristwatches all the time until I had one that started running backwards. And I showed it to my dad, and he just looked at me like, "Where are you from?" And then at some point, I quit wearing them. I mean, I think everything is here. It's all in our consciousness. So whatever this reality is, whether it's a video game, whatever, it's one of the rules, and rules can be broken and played with. So.
Absolutely. Are you guys up for one more?
Yes.
Quick one? Okay.
One more. Congratulations, you were the last questioner at the conference.
Thank you. And thank you for the conference. I definitely have felt myself amplified energetically by being in the presence of all of you, and it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So no question, I wanted to share a synchronicity. Right before the conference, I had the message come through, "We are the bridge." And so then at the conference, first day, Steffi shared that she had the message come through, "I am the bridge." Let's see, right after that, Tracy had showed me on her phone, she just became aware of a new creature in our reality. It's called the bridge mushroom. They get up and walk. They're amazing. They're the bridge mushroom. After that, I think Dan in his presentation talked about 3D, 4D, 5D, with 4D being the bridge. After that, Elaine talked about her bridge moment where she saw the bridge flip-flop in reality. And Ted, your water reminded me of the fourth phase of water because it makes a bridge. And it's just been very inspired by this conference to start, decoding and taking a deep dive into all of these, personal synchronicities and effects. And I think we are the bridge. I think all of us here are on the forefront of human evolution, moving into something totally uncharted territory, so beautiful, and we are the bridge. We are going to do it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So are you saying that the matrix decoded into a bridge then? Because this is decoding the matrix, right? That is cool. I hadn't seen that the whole conference, but it didn't seem like we've had that theme overall for the whole conference itself. That is too cool.
Oh, and one more thing I'll add real quick. Mushrooms.
Hold on.
Sorry.
There you go.
Mushrooms actually are a bridge themselves because Tracy, who's not here today, is a mushroom expert, and we were talking about how they have like half animal DNA and half plant DNA, so they are literally a bridge. And also, I know the research where they did imaging of people's brains while they were using psilocybin mushrooms showed that the mushrooms created a bridge between your left and right brain. It activated it. So I thought it was really cool, like the bridge mushroom. Again, it was just another echo of the whole bridge theme. So
Thank you so very much.
Let's give our panelists a round of applause. We're actually going to stick around and hang around out here and play some music and dance and just hang out, so if you want to hang around.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the International Mandela Effect Conference for 2023! A couple things before we dismiss. Do remember, send us emails. I'd like to set up a box if we can find one. If not, that's okay. Send us emails. Let us know. We are planning the next conference. This one is just ending. We are already planning the next one. We want to hear from you. We want to hear where you want us to hear it. We want to hear who you want to see speaking or who you don't want to see. If you don't want me up speaking again, let us know. I'm kidding. I don't know anybody who'd want that except my ex-wife. Anyway, do let us know, though. Seriously, email us team@imec.com. team@imec.world. We do these events of, for, and by you guys. And I want to reiterate one more time, not a single person in this group has made a single penny off of any of this. Every penny you've spent out here at these tables in the last couple of days goes into doing 2024. Every penny a Patreon member gives us goes into doing that next conference. Every penny we get, including some out of our own pockets, goes toward these conferences. So I can guarantee you any donation you give is absolutely helpful and appreciated. Speaking of appreciated, I would like to extend an incredible appreciation to Miss Heather right here, our main producer in all of our open table shows. She's been with us since 2019, ladies and gentlemen. She's absolutely incredible. She's the audio video genius, master, magician. I don't know what word to put there, but she's really great at what she does, and we really appreciate her a lot. She's been the backbone to this thing back there in the corner, as well as our video team back here and our audio team. They've done incredible work this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. They need to go ahead and give themselves a round of applause. You can let go of the camera a minute. You're okay. You can clap. There we go. I appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. We wouldn't be anywhere near where we are without you guys. And taking the Labor Day weekend to do this with and for us, I can't express how much it means to me. You guys have always been a pleasure to work with, even back in Ketchum. So, again, thank you guys so very much.
Are you guys going to put these videos online for other people to see at some point?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that question. So IMEC has decided, because of our incredible Patreon members, that the Patreon members will see day one first for the week, and then the rest of the public will get day one. Day two they'll get for a week by themselves, and then the rest of the public, as well as day three. So if you're a Patreon member, or if you're not, please go subscribe. You're going to be able to get to see these before anybody else. Last but not least, I would like to thank our incredible volunteers who have volunteered their time and money and all of that to be here with us and help us in the background of doing these things. Mr. Tom, what was our other volunteer? I'm sorry? Stephen Purdy. Our security back there, as well as a number of other things he's helped us with. Tom back there, he's been running our merch table back there and registration. Absolutely wonderful. We appreciate all of you guys and Michelle. Michelle, Michelle, there we go, yes. Michelle, we appreciate you also helping us out so very much. You guys are absolutely incredible. We are also looking for volunteers for next year's IMEC. One little thing about the volunteer role is if you're a volunteer, you don't have to pay for a ticket. You're helping. You're donating your time. So if you want to volunteer next time, let us know. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to personally, on behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On Defense, Chris Anatra, you know him as the Quantum Businessman, and myself, Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. Together, we are the International Mandela Effect Conference. We appreciate you guys being with us again this year. And remember, until next we all meet, together we go. Together we grow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.